trial attorney Neal Redmond, coming at you from the Taconic Parkway on my way up to court in Poughkeepsie. And today I want to talk to you about car accidents and the requirements of recovering a compensation in a car accident, which are a little bit different than other kinds of accidents, because technically speaking, if you seek to recover for your pain and suffering in a car accident, the law requires that you suffer a serious injury. And a serious injury under the law, under the insurance law, and more specifically under the no-fault law, is defined as some very serious injuries such as death or dismemberment, disfigurement, things like that. But the issue really does not rear its head unless somebody has what's considered to be possibly called a soft tissue type of injury. I don't like to really call it that, because some soft tissue injuries can be quite serious and debilitating, but when they refer to soft tissue, they talk about tendons and ligaments and discs and things like that that can end up having very serious injuries to them. However, they are not broken bones, otherwise known as fractures. And so oftentimes the insurance companies will try to refuse to pay for a particular injury or an accident because they claim that the injuries don't rise to the level of being a serious injury under what's called the threshold law of the no-fault law. And threshold means that there's a certain level or a hurdle that the injury has to come over before it can be viewed as a serious injury. So there's really four categories of injuries that are viewed as serious injuries under the threshold law. And the first one that's kind of obvious is a fracture. If you do have a fracture, which is also known as a break, a broken bone, then you would qualify to be compensated for your pain and suffering in a motor vehicle accident. And that's what we're talking about here, is pain and suffering compensation. Your lost wages and your medical bills generally are going to be paid by no fault. No fault is the insurance that everybody has to have on their vehicle. It basically comes with all insurance policies, and that is called no fault because the coverage for your lost wages and medical bills, and they can give you a home health aid for about $100 a day if you need that, is included in the no fault insurance coverage, okay? And so the idea is that no matter who is at fault, the no fault coverage, the no fault insurance, will pay for your medical bills and for your lost wages. And so the idea is that, we file that no-fault application. That has to be done within 30 days. And then the no-fault insurance company always asks the person to go to an IME. I have a video that I produced about IMEs, and that's supposed to be an independent medical evaluation, but it's really not. That's the evaluation where the insurance company basically pays a doctor to say that you're okay in order to stop treating you. And it's a bit of a scam that the insurance companies run to basically stop having to pay for your no-fault treatment. In any event, that's a different subject. What I'm talking about here today has to do with the serious injury threshold. I mentioned the first level, which is a fracture, which is also known as a broken bone, and the second criteria or qualification for being compensated for your pain and suffering is if you suffered an injury that caused you to not be able to substantially perform your normal daily activities for 90 out of the first 180 days after your accident. And what that means in a nutshell is that, the way the insurance companies look at it is you couldn't do your job for 3 months after the accident, if you want to put it sort of in concrete terms. Technically speaking, it means that you were limited in your ability to do what you normally did on a daily basis for at least a combination of 3 months out of the following 6 months after the accident. So that could mean that you were out of work for a month, and then you went back to work, maybe on a limited duty, because you have a physical job and you're not able to do the work that you used to do, so the doctors put you on light duty. Or you could have even tried to go back on full duty, but maybe you weren't able to do it, and then you realized that you left work again and got a surgery, and that kept you out of work for another month, and then you went on light duty for another month after that. In any event, the bottom line is that if within the 6 months following the accident, if you are unable to do your normal daily activities for a combination of 3 months during that 6 months, then you would qualify as having a serious injury, and again qualify to be compensated for your pain and suffering that you experience during that time and during the whole lawsuit. So the insurance companies are always interested in trying to say that you're not as hurt as you say, or not as hurt as your doctors claim, and they are paying other doctors that are on their payroll to try to help them say that, right? Because that's what insurance companies do. They try to take your money and then they try to save money by not paying it out. That's just their business model, right? Our business model is to disrupt their business model and try to get you all of the compensation you're entitled to under the law. First of all, by doing videos like this, exposing them for the scoundrels they are. If it was a normal business that they had, they would just pay what they feel is fair and just compensation, but they don't do that because they're sneaky you-know-whats. But anyway, getting back to the, again, the qualifications of a person to qualify as having a serious injury, there are basically 4 areas that you can qualify under. I've mentioned 2. A fracture is something that is pretty much something that is easily identifiable. In other words, you get an x-ray and it's determined you had a fracture or you did not. And that could mean anything. It could mean a hairline fracture. It could mean a non-displaced fracture, where the bones break but they don't move. It could mean a displaced fracture, or what they call a comminuted, I can't even say that word, comminuted fracture, which means that it's multiple fractures in one place but didn't displace the bone. It could be a major break in the bone where the bone is completely dislodged. Those are all fractures, otherwise known as breaks, and those qualify the person for the serious injury threshold and enable them to get access to the compensation for pain and suffering. Now, the other 2 areas for qualification are if you have suffered a permanent injury or a significant injury. All right, they say a permanent consequential limitation of a body use or function, and that's how it's typically stated in the law. But bottom line is that you have what's considered a permanent injury or you have a significant injury, and those answers to those questions generally are not answers that you will know right away. There are things that have to be investigated. There are things that have to be determined by MRIs and further examinations and further treatment. And so those questions are going to be answered sort of